Hello, friends. Welcome to day 3. So, I love talking about this because I think this is one of the things no one talks about. I think we see a lot of places talking about what to eat differently. So, when I think about desiring the food that serves you, right, we talk about that really is you deciding from asking yourself some of those questions. And now we're seeing more and more people talking about emotional freedom and emotional eating and how do we be able to be present and experience our emotions so that we don't need food. But what I still think is missing is identifying as someone who is naturally thin right now, today. You're not going to wait until you get to your goal weight, but you're going to actually start to see that version of you, that person today. Because here's what happens. Otherwise, we lose the weight and then we end up putting it back on. It's almost like it isn't almost like it is like our brain hasn't caught up with where our body is. And so then our body will go back to where our brain is. We can kind of like trick our brain for a while with having a body that doesn't match our self concept as a naturally thin woman, but it will always go back to where our brain is. And so that's why it's so important to manage our mind and so important to really actually start to identify as a naturally thin woman. And this is the one thing that I see has my clients propel the fastest because they start to identify as someone who is naturally thin right now, today. And so we're going to talk about how to do that. All right. So I want you to ask yourself, I love asking this question, especially with my new clients. Okay. How do you imagine? What do you think you're feeling as you're losing weight? What emotion do you think you need to lose weight? And almost always they will say some form of like commitment, determination, motivation, something like that. Then I will ask them, okay, how do you think you stay there? And they're kind of like, can kind of tell where their mind's at. They're like, not quite sure. And so I'm like, what about a calm certainty? And I can see their brain is like, I don't quite understand how that's even possible. Right? How can I be calm, certain? How can I have a freedom? I like to think of a peaceful, grounded, free, easy, effortless feeling. That's how you become naturally thin and stay there for life without ever having any more of the mental battle. And so it's so important to understand this. I don't even necessarily want you to kind of change your thought pattern, but I want you to be aware of it because how we start losing weight isn't how we stay there, right? How we stay at our weight in a way that's easy and effortless is with a version of calm certainty. A calm certainty and that you don't worry about the weight ever coming back on. I never worry about my weight coming back on. We plan on having more children. We have 2 kids. I plan on having more kids. I have no fear about not being able to lose the weight because I just identify as someone who is naturally thin, no matter what. And I know I'll lose the weight. And so there's a calm certainty that comes with it that's so freeing because it's a lot easier sometimes to feel a calm certainty than a commitment. A commitment, sometimes you gotta like muster up the energy and the effort, right? And so another big part of this, and I'm going to walk you through some things to do, is that we're going to use the scale and you're going to start seeing it as data only. And I, for a couple years, wouldn't even get on a scale because I would get on and it would either make or break my day. If I had lost weight, it would mean I would have the most amazing day. And if I would gain weight, it would mean I would have literally a terrible day. It would ruin my whole day, or I would let my thoughts about it ruin my whole day. And so I want you to start using the scale as data only. And so what I want you to do is think about this. And I always find this so fascinating. As we work together more, you'll hear me talk about babies and kids and then dying. I like to think about both ends of the spectrum. But when we have a baby, we would never say, oh, baby, you are not doing this right? Like, oh my gosh, they weigh too much. They don't weigh enough. Like, they're a bad baby. Like, we would never tie any of the baby's worthiness or value to the number on the scale, right? Like that, we're like, no, that's complete insanity. But then at some point along the way, and I actually think this is another fascinating question, at what age did you start kind of tying your worthiness or your value to the number on the scale. Most of us have like about an age that our brain kind of comes up with. But somewhere along the way, that changes for us, right? And we can see it all over in society and our culture and what we learn and all of the things, right? But I want you to start using the scale as data only. And it's just going to be data that you're going to use, and we're going to take all the drama out of it. It's no longer going to mean anything about us as a person. It's just going to be an indication of, oh, am I making progress towards my goal weight? Is the food that serves me helping me along the way? And not from this sort of pressure place or this fear. And the scale, the other reason I love to use the scale is because it's such a good kind of external cue to see where your mind is at when you think about identifying as someone who's naturally thin. Because a naturally thin woman who will get on the scale and be like, oh, okay, interesting. And that's it. She doesn't make it mean anything about her day. She might kind of see, oh, I'm putting on a couple pounds. I wonder why. She might be curious about it. She might want to understand it. She always has compassion for herself, and she never beats the shit out of herself. So that's what I want you to start practicing. There's no more beating the crap out of yourself. There's no more self-loathing. There's no more guilt and shame because of some number on a scale. No. And so how you do this is we actually use the scale to develop this skill, because you get on the scale doesn't lie, there's a number, and your brain is going to start to have all of the thoughts. And so what I want you to do is you're going to use it as data. You're going to get on the scale once in the morning and once in the evening. And I love to do this because even when I have clients do this for a week, they almost within a couple of days will come back and they've detached from the number on the scale. And it actually helps them lose weight faster. Because when you get on the scale in the morning and then you get on the scale in the evening, you will see you can have like a 5-6 pound swing during the day, right? And so you start to stop making it mean something about you. And so you're going to get on the scale morning and evening and then just write down or notice the thoughts that you're having. Because it's really important to see what thoughts am I thinking about myself and where do I want to be? Like if I'm beating myself up and I'm telling myself I'm fat and disgusting, this is never going to happen for me and this is just something I'm going to have to struggle with the rest of my life, all thoughts I used to tell myself, I'm not living into that identity as a naturally thin woman. And your brain is going to want to be like, no, listen, we have to wait until we actually lose the weight to be able to tell ourselves that. But it doesn't work that way because your brain will come with you. And this is why you've lost weight and then put it back on. And lost weight and put it back on. I actually got down to my thinnest weight and I was like, when I get there, then I will be able to like see myself as a naturally thin woman. It didn't work. I ended up putting on 30 pounds again. And so once you start to see where your mind is currently at using the scale, and if you want to get really into it, just write down 5 thoughts. 5 thoughts that your brain comes up with when you see that number on the scale. And then I want you to ask yourself, if I was naturally thin and it was effortless, how would I be thinking and feeling? And let your mind come up with an answer for you. How would I be thinking and feeling? How would I think and feel about this number on the scale? And what I found for myself is that, I wouldn't be beating the shit out of myself. I would want to understand, why did we overeat so much last night? I would want to understand, what am I making this mean about me? I would want to understand, I wonder what's happening. I wonder what's working. I wonder what's not working. I started to then just tell myself, maybe I don't quite identify as a naturally thin woman yet, but I know I'm on my journey to becoming there. Very different than I'm never going to get there. This is never going to happen for me. And you start to just ask yourself this question. If I was naturally thin and it was effortless, how would I be thinking and feeling? And then you notice anytime you're not feeling that. So for me, I was like, I would definitely have this calm certainty. I would have this peacefulness. And so then every time I noticed in my body that I was eating out of a kind of tense, tight emotion, I'd be like, that's a good cue for me. Nope. When I'm naturally thin, I don't do that. And so you start living into that a little bit more every single day from the beginning, so that you start to get to this place, even if you still have, 10, 15, 30 pounds left to lose, you're like, it's inevitable. because I just identify so deeply as a naturally thin woman. And then you step into it kind of like a new outfit. You kind of, my coach, I kind of heard her talk about this. She's like, it's kind of like when you put on a new outfit that's like maybe not your style and it's, but still something you would wear. It's not like way, way out there in left field, but it's like you kind of put it on and you're like, not quite sure. But the more and more you put it on, you're like, oh yeah, this is totally me. So I want you to think about that when you start to ask yourself this question. And here are a couple other questions you can ask yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, and don't be overwhelmed by asking yourself all the questions, just pick one, whatever kind of resonates with you the most. On a scale of 1 to 10, how possible is it for me to be naturally thin? And first answer your brain comes up with, the kind of immediate thought or immediate number that it gives you. And just understand why. Be like, oh, it gave me a 5. I wonder why. And then see kind of what it comes up with. And then ask yourself, what would it need to be? What would I be thinking if it was a 10? What's the difference? Why do I think I'm not a 10? On a scale of 1 to 10, how strongly do I identify as a naturally thin woman? So this is how possible is it? And then how strongly do I identify? And so you might get to the point like over time, oh, I may think it's like 8 for me to be naturally thin, but I identify like maybe a 4. And just get curious and just see like, oh, this is why. I think it's not possible for me because I come from a family and no one is thin. It might not be possible. I might think it's not possible for me because I've tried 20 other diets. None of them work. I might not think it's possible for me because I'm 50 and it just won't happen for me. It's not possible for me because I just had a baby. Now, anyone with a baby, first 3 months, let's not even go there, right? But we start to tell ourselves, oh, it's not possible for me because I'm breastfeeding. I used to hear that from a lot of people. And so why do you think it's not possible for you? And then, like I said before, I want you to just think about it as a new outfit. You're just kind of trying it on and getting curious and like, do I like it? Does it fit? Could I wear this? All of that. And it's not a battle. This is one thing I really want you to start to notice is how often you beat the crap out of yourself. Most of us do it a lot, but there's no guilt, no shame, no disgust, no embarrassment, none of that required to become naturally thin, because the naturally thin woman doesn't do that. We think we need the self-loathing, we think we need the disgust in order to fuel us to get there, but it doesn't work. How many years have you been trying that? And how many years has it not worked? And now, your brain might kind of want to trick you and be like, but we did it before. We lost weight before. We kind of hated on ourselves, used willpower, white-knuckled our way before. But you're here. So either it didn't work or it didn't stick or it's so exhausting you don't want to keep doing it. And this is how you do it with ease, a calm certainty, and a peacefulness that is so freeing. And so here's the last thing I like to think about when you think about kind of the mental conversation you have with yourself as you start to identify as someone that's naturally thin. So I have a 3-year-old, his name's Ben, and we've been taking him to swimming lessons. And he has been in the water a little bit, but not a whole lot until we started doing swimming lessons. Maybe even we started around 2.5. And I think about in the beginning, right, he's learning a new skill. You are learning a new skill of being naturally thin, of identifying as a naturally thin woman, of desiring the food that serves you, of finding emotional freedom. This is a skill set that you are learning. And as he's learning how to swim, and he starts to have some confidence, and he starts to be swimming on his own, and then he kind of gets scared, I'm not listen, Ben, you have to swim. And I'm in the pool with him, by the way. But I'm not yelling at him you're a terrible kid. Why aren't you swimming better yet? I'm oh, hang on, you're freaking out. Let me hold you for a minute. Let me give you some compassion. Let me give you some love. Let me understand what's happening for you. And he might have had water in his eye or swallowed something. I'm not beating the crap out of him trying to get him to swim, right? We all know that's not going to work. That's not going to be lifelong and let him have fun. He's going to have an adverse reaction to that actually. And he might actually digress and go the other way. But then we, for some reason as adults, think that that's motivating. That's just a lie we tell ourselves. It's not motivating to beat the shit out of yourself. And if you're like me, and a lot of the women I help, that's something we have been practicing for so long that it is a new skill set to have that compassion and understanding for yourself. And the other thing it's not is there was a kid in his swim class that's like, blah, like running around like crazy, and the dad's like chasing after him, trying to control him. Like, that's not it either. But it's a gentle understanding and love and compassion of this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. And creating the safe container to do that. To have the freedom to try new things, to not beat ourselves up on the back end, but to also know where we're headed. Right? When I think about this kid was like a little crazy, and like the dad didn't know what to do, right? And so I felt really bad for him. But that also isn't helping his kid learn how to swim. That also isn't helping him learn the skill. And so letting your brain kind of go completely the other way, that also isn't compassion and love and understanding. And so just think about, as you develop this skill, it is a skill that you develop. And like swimming, once you know how to swim, you just swim. You don't think about, oh, I have to kind of breathe out of my nose, and oh, I've got to put my arms out, and oh, I've got to kick my legs, and oh, this is how I float, and oh, there's water in my ear, and oh, my hair is wet, and like, now what do I do? And all of the things. You don't have to actually think about all of the steps anymore. It's the exact same with becoming naturally thin for life. You don't have to think about it anymore. It just becomes a part of you because it's easy and it's effortless. And then I can swim in the pool, and then I can swim in the ocean, and then I can swim at the lake, and then I can swim at this other lake, and then I can swim at the water park, and then I can swim anywhere because I have the skill of swimming. Just like now, I can go eat anywhere and never worry about my weight because I just have the skill of being naturally thin. And the same will happen for you as you master these 3 skills. So I will talk to you all tomorrow in a bonus video.